The mysterious signal. The galaxy was vast, filled with endless stars and mysteries waiting to be uncovered. Yet, in the darkest corner of the Andoran sector, there was a region no one dared to enter. Known as the Forbidden Zone, it was a graveyard of ancient ships and broken satellites. Legends told of explorers who ventured in but never returned, leaving behind only questions and silence. The Vorlax Explorer, a medium-sized alien research vessel, floated at the edge of the Forbidden Zone. Its captain, Commander Trellick, stood on the bridge, staring at the massive void ahead. The crew was uneasy. Even the ship's automated systems seemed to hum with tension. "Captain, we've picked up a signal," reported Lieutenant Vera, her green, scaled fingers dancing over the control panel. Her voice carried a mix of curiosity and fear. "What kind of signal?" Trellick asked, narrowing his glowing yellow eyes. "It's ancient. The frequency doesn't match anything in our database, but it's powerful. It's been broadcasting for over 500,000 years." The room fell silent. 500,000 years. That was impossible. Civilizations rose and fell in less time. What kind of technology could last so long? "Patch it through," Trellick ordered, his voice steady despite the growing unease in his chest. The speakers crackled to life, and a strange sound filled the room. It wasn't music or speech, but a rhythmic pulse, like the beating of a heart. Over time, words began to emerge, faint and distorted. Terra, legacy, return. The crew exchanged nervous glances. They had heard of Terra, though only in myths and ancient stories. Terra was the homeworld of humans, a species thought to have been wiped out in a cataclysmic war long before most of the galaxy's current races even existed. "Humans," muttered Chief Engineer Zark, his deep voice laced with disbelief. "But they're extinct, aren't they?" "No one knows for sure," Vera replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "There have always been rumors that humans left something behind, a legacy." Trellick paced the bridge, his mind racing. The signal wasn't just a random broadcast. It was a beacon. Something, or someone, wanted it to be found. "We can't ignore this," he finally said. "Prepare to enter the Forbidden Zone." The crew hesitated. They had all heard the stories of ships disappearing without a trace, swallowed by the region's strange anomalies. But Trellick's authority was absolute. With a few reluctant nods, the crew began their preparations. The Vorlax Explorer inched forward, its sleek, silver hull cutting through the darkness. The further they ventured, the stranger the environment became. Floating debris surrounded them, fragments of ancient ships, some so massive they blotted out entire star clusters. Energy readings spiked, and the ship's instruments struggled to keep up. "Captain, the signal is getting stronger," Vera reported. Her voice was steady, but the tension in her eyes betrayed her nerves. "We're close." Suddenly, the ship's lights flickered, and an alarm blared. "Unknown energy source detected," Zark shouted from his station. It's scanning us." A brilliant beam of light shot out from the void, illuminating the Vorlax Explorer. The crew braced themselves, expecting an attack, but nothing happened. Instead, the signal's pulse grew louder, more insistent, as if it were welcoming them. "Keep moving," Trellick commanded, though his own heart raced. The ship broke through the debris field and entered a massive open space. What they saw left them speechless. A colossal structure, unlike anything they had ever seen, floated silently in the void. It was a ship, but it dwarfed even the largest vessels in the known galaxy. Its surface was dark and smooth, with glowing blue lines tracing intricate patterns across its hull. It seemed alive, as if it were breathing. That's no ordinary ship," Zark said, his voice trembling. "It's a fortress." The signal was coming directly from the ship, its pulsing rhythm perfectly synchronized with the glowing patterns. As the Vorlax Explorer drew closer, they noticed words etched into the side of the massive vessel. "Terra." Vera gasped. "It's human." This is their legacy. Before anyone could respond, the ship's systems came to life. The glowing lines brightened, and a deep mechanical voice filled the bridge. "Identify yourselves," it demanded. "Why have you come to this sacred ground?" The crew froze. The legends were true. Terra's legacy wasn't just a myth. It was real, and it was waiting. Commander Trellick stepped forward, his voice steady but filled with awe. "We are explorers," he said. "We heard your signal and came to uncover the truth." The voice paused, as if considering their words. Then, with an almost ominous tone, it replied, "The truth comes with a price. Proceed, if you dare." As the ship's massive doors began to open, revealing a glowing interior, the crew realized there was no turning back. Terra's legacy had awakened, and whatever secrets it held would change the galaxy forever. Forgotten history. As the Vorlax explorer cautiously approached the massive ship, the crew couldn't help but feel the weight of history pressing down on them. They were standing at the threshold of something ancient, something beyond their understanding. The glowing patterns across the colossal vessel's hull pulsed in rhythmic waves, almost like it was alive. Inside the Vorlax explorer, the crew gathered in the command room. Holographic displays flickered to life, casting faint blue light on their tense faces. "We're dealing with something older than our entire civilization," Lieutenant Vera began, her voice steady but filled with awe. "The signal we picked up has been broadcasting for over 500,000 years. Whatever this is, it was here long before us." Zark, the gruff chief engineer, crossed his arms. 500,000 years. No ship could survive that long in a place like this. The debris field alone should have torn it apart. "It's not just any ship," Vara replied, gesturing to the holographic scans of the vessel. "Its structure doesn't match anything we've ever seen. The material is self-repairing, adaptive. And look at these energy readings. They're off the charts." Commander Trellick nodded, his sharp gaze fixed on the display. "We need to understand what we're dealing with. Open the archives. I want everything we have on Terra and the humans." The room fell silent as the ship's AI brought up fragments of ancient data. Holograms displayed crude images of humans, some standing triumphantly on worlds they had conquered, others locked in fierce battles with alien races. "Humans," Zark muttered. "The species that burned brighter than any other, only to destroy themselves. Or so the stories go." "They weren't just warriors," Vara added, scrolling through the records. "They were builders, explorers, visionaries. They reached the stars when other species were still crawling out of their oceans. But their ambition was their downfall." Trellick frowned. "Explain." Vera tapped a command, and a new image appeared. A shattered planet surrounded by debris. "This is what remains of Terra," she said. "The human homeworld. Historical records suggest their civilization collapsed in a war so devastating. It wiped out not just their world but their entire empire. Then why is this ship still here?" Zark asked, his voice heavy with skepticism. "If they destroyed themselves, how could they have left something like this behind?" "That's the mystery," Vara replied. "Some believe the humans knew their end was coming. There are legends about a final project, something they called their legacy. It was supposed to ensure that their knowledge, their culture, even their presence, would endure long after they were gone." Trellick leaned forward, his golden eyes narrowing. "And you think this ship is their legacy?" Before Vara could answer, the Vorlax explorer shuddered. The glowing patterns on the ancient ship brightened, and a new signal began to broadcast. This time, it wasn't just a pulse, it was a message. "Hearken, travelers of the stars," the voice boomed. It was deep and resonant, filled with authority. "You stand before the last beacon of Terra. Within this vessel lies the culmination of our greatest works, our deepest secrets. To proceed is to accept the weight of our legacy." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. The voice was clear, powerful, and undeniably human. "What do you mean, the weight of your legacy?" Trellick asked aloud, though he wasn't sure if the ship could hear him. The voice continued, ignoring the question. Long ago, we knew our time was short. We created this ark to preserve the essence of who we were. Knowledge, power, a chance to rise again. But beware, our legacy is not for the weak. Only those worthy may unlock its secrets. What does it mean by worthy? Zark growled. This feels like a trap. Or a test, Vara whispered. The voice fell silent, and the bridge lights dimmed. In the growing quiet, the weight of the moment pressed down on them. This wasn't just an archaeological discovery, it was a challenge. Trellick took a deep breath. We've come this far. We can't turn back now. Prepare to board the ship. But, Captain, Zark began, only to be cut off by Trellick's raised hand. We didn't come here to run from ghosts, Trellick said firmly. If the humans left something behind, it could change everything we know about the galaxy. We owe it to ourselves to see this through. The crew reluctantly agreed, and preparations for the boarding began. As they donned their gear, Vera's voice cut through the tense atmosphere. There's one more thing, she said, her tone grave. The records mention something called the Guardian. It's said to be an AI that protects Terra's legacy, ensuring only the worthy can access it. An AI? Zark scoffed. We've dealt with worse. Not like this, Vara replied. The Guardian was designed by the humans. If it's still operational, it could be more advanced than anything we've ever encountered. The tension thickened as the boarding crew prepared to step into the unknown. They knew they were standing on the edge of history, but they also knew the risks. As the Vorlax Explorer extended its docking arm toward the ancient ship, the glowing patterns shifted, forming a clear path to an open hatch. Welcome, travelers, the voice said once more, its tone both inviting and ominous. The legacy awaits. Trellick's jaw tightened. Let's find out what these humans left behind. With that, the crew entered the vessel, stepping into a world that would change their understanding of the galaxy forever. The Forbidden Zone. The air inside the ancient vessel felt heavy, almost oppressive, as though centuries of silence pressed down on the intruders. The boarding crew stepped cautiously through the dimly lit corridors, their lights bouncing off smooth, dark walls etched with glowing blue lines. The ship's interior seemed impossibly vast, its scale defying logic, as if it were more than just a vessel, an entire world unto itself. Commander Trellick led the way, his steps purposeful yet hesitant. Behind him, Lieutenant Vera and Chief Engineer Zark scanned the surroundings with portable sensors, their readings flickering wildly. The deeper they ventured, the more disoriented they became. The layout was alien, unlike anything even the most advanced races of the galaxy had designed. This ship, Vera began, her voice trembling with a mix of awe and unease. It's alive. The energy readings suggest the walls themselves are organic, fused with technology. Organic, Zark growled. That's not a ship. It's a trap. We need to leave before we're swallowed whole. Enough, Trellick snapped, his sharp gaze silencing the engineer. We're here to uncover the truth, not to run at the first sign of danger. As they pressed forward, the glowing lines along the walls began to shift and pulse, as though responding to their presence. Then, without warning, the path ahead sealed itself, and the lights dimmed further. The team froze, their hands instinctively gripping their weapons. A voice echoed through the chamber, calm and commanding. It was the same voice from the signal, but now it felt closer, more personal. You have entered the heart of Terra's legacy, it said. Your intentions will be judged. The crew exchanged nervous glances. Vera stepped forward hesitantly, addressing the unseen speaker. We are explorers. We seek to understand your legacy and ensure it is preserved. The voice was silent for a moment before responding. Words are easy. Actions reveal truth. To proceed, you must prove yourselves. The floor beneath their feet vibrated, and the walls around them began to shift, rearranging themselves into an expansive chamber. The crew found themselves standing in the center of what looked like a grand arena. Above them, holographic projections flickered to life, displaying scenes from Terra's history. Humans engaged in brutal wars, building vast cities, and exploring the cosmos. "What is this?" Zark asked, his voice barely a whisper. "A test," the voice replied. "To carry Terra's legacy, you must understand our strength, our resilience, and our pain." Suddenly, humanoid constructs emerged from the walls. They resembled humans, but their forms were metallic and sleek, their glowing eyes fixed on the crew. Without warning, the constructs attacked. Defensive positions. Trellick barked, raising his weapon. The crew opened fire, their energy blasts striking the constructs. But the constructs were fast, adapting to each strike, and soon the team was forced to retreat. "This isn't just a test of strength," Vera yelled, dodging a blow. "It's analyzing us, our teamwork, our decisions." Trellick gritted his teeth, his sharp reflexes keeping him one step ahead of the relentless constructs. "Then let's show it what we're capable of." The crew fought together, their movements becoming more coordinated as they adapted to the construct's strategies. Each member contributed, exploiting weaknesses and covering one another. The constructs eventually paused, their glowing eyes dimming as if they were satisfied. The voice returned, softer this time. "You have demonstrated unity and resilience. These are the traits that defined humanity. But strength alone is not enough." Before anyone could respond, the chamber transformed again. This time, the crew found themselves in what appeared to be a simulation of a destroyed planet. The air was thick with ash, and the ruins of a once great city stretched out before them. Shadows of human figures moved through the rubble, their faces etched with despair. "This is Terra," the voice explained. "Our greatest failure, born of our own ambition. To carry our legacy is to carry the burden of our mistakes." The crew watched in silence as the simulation played out. They saw humans fighting not just against alien invaders, but against one another, their greed and pride tearing their civilization apart. The images were haunting, a stark reminder of how even the greatest species could fall. "We can't ignore this," Vara whispered, her voice breaking. "They weren't just warriors or builders. They were flawed, like all of us." And yet, the voice continued, even in their darkest moments, they'd fought to survive. They created this arc, not to erase their mistakes, but to ensure others could learn from them. The scene faded, and the chamber returned to its original form. The constructs disappeared, and the glowing lines on the walls shifted into a new pattern, forming a clear path forward. "You have passed the first trial," the voice declared. "Proceed, and uncover the truth of Terra's legacy." Trellick looked at his team, their faces a mix of exhaustion and determination. "We came here for answers," he said, "and it looks like we're finally going to get them." With cautious steps, they followed the glowing path, venturing deeper into the ship. Each step brought them closer to the heart of Terra's legacy, and the secrets that could reshape the galaxy forever. Awakening Terra's legacy. As the crew ventured deeper into the vessel, the air seemed to thrum with a low rhythmic pulse, like the heartbeat of a sleeping giant. The glowing lines on the walls guided them, weaving intricate patterns that flickered with purpose. Every step they took felt heavier, as though the ship was aware of their presence, judging their every move. The corridor opened into a vast chamber, its ceiling disappearing into the shadows above. In the center stood an enormous crystalline structure, glowing faintly with a soft blue light. Surrounding it were rows of alien consoles, their designs so advanced that even the Vorlax explorer's technology paled in comparison. Lieutenant Vera gasped as her scanner lit up with readings beyond anything she'd ever seen. This is the core of the ship," she whispered. "It's not just controlling the vessel, it's a repository of knowledge. Every piece of data, every advancement humanity ever made, it's stored here." Commander Trellick stepped forward cautiously, his eyes fixed on the crystalline core. "So this is it," he murmured. "The heart of Terra's legacy." Before anyone could respond, the chamber came alive. Holographic projections filled the air, displaying humans in various stages of their civilization. Scientists in pristine laboratories, engineers constructing massive starships, soldiers locked in desperate battles. The images were vivid, almost real, as if the ship was trying to communicate directly with the crew. "Behold," the deep voice echoed once more, its tone filled with a mix of pride and sorrow. "This is our story, our triumphs, and our failures." The projections shifted to scenes of destruction. Planets reduced to ashes, fleets annihilated in fiery explosions, and humans standing amidst the ruins of their once great empire. The holograms seemed to linger on the faces of the humans, expressions of determination, fear, and hope etched into their features. Chief Engineer Zark clenched his fists. "Why show us this? We've already seen what happened to them. We know they destroyed themselves." "You misunderstand," the voice replied, its tone sharper now. "We did not destroy ourselves. We were destroyed because we dared to stand against the darkness." The holograms shifted again, this time revealing monstrous alien fleets, horrific, biomechanical ships swarming like locusts. The humans fought valiantly, their ships and soldiers holding the line, but the enemy overwhelmed them, pushing them to the brink of extinction. They were invaded, Vara breathed. They didn't just fall, they sacrificed everything to protect the galaxy. The crystalline core pulsed brightly, and the voice continued, its words heavy with meaning. "We fought not for ourselves, but for the freedom of all. When the tide turned against us, we knew our time was limited. That is why we created this arc. To preserve what we were, to prepare for the day when the galaxy might face the same threat again." Trellick's jaw tightened, and now that day has come. The ship rumbled, and a section of the wall slid open, revealing rows of dormant humanoid constructs, similar to the ones they had fought earlier, but larger and more imposing. Each one was armed with weapons that radiated a faint, ominous energy. "These are the Guardians," the voice said. "They are Terra's last line of defense, programmed to awaken should the threat return. But they cannot act alone. For the legacy to rise again, it needs a leader." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. "The leader?" Zark asked, his tone skeptical. "You mean one of us?" The voice responded with deliberate calm. "The leader must embody the qualities that defined humanity: courage, ingenuity, and the will to protect others, even at great cost. The question is, do you have what it takes?" Before anyone could reply, the crystalline core emitted a blinding light. Each member of the crew felt an intense warmth wash over them, as though the ship itself was peering into their very souls. Memories flashed before their eyes, moments of bravery, of doubt, of sacrifice. It was overwhelming, like their lives were being laid bare. When the light faded, the voice spoke again. "One among you carries the spark of what we were. The legacy recognizes them." Vera's scanner beeped wildly, and she looked up, her eyes wide. "It's you, Commander." Trellick's breath caught in his throat. "What? That's impossible. The blood of Terra flows within you," the voice declared. A distant echo, perhaps, but enough for the legacy to recognize. "You are the key to awakening what remains." Trellick stared at the crystalline core, his mind racing. He had always prided himself on his strength, his leadership, but this was something far greater than anything he had ever imagined. "What happens if I refuse?" he asked, his voice low. "Then the legacy remains dormant," the voice replied. "The galaxy will stand alone against the darkness, as it did before, and it will fall." The chamber fell silent, the weight of the decision pressing down on everyone. Finally, Trellick straightened his shoulders, his expression resolute. "If this is the burden I must bear, so be it. I won't let your sacrifice be in vain." The crystalline core glowed brighter, and the ship rumbled once more, The Guardians began to stir, their eyes lighting up as if responding to Trellick's resolve. "Then it is done," the voice said. "The legacy awakens." As the chamber filled with light, the crew realized they had crossed a threshold. Whatever lay ahead would not only redefine their understanding of humanity, but also shape the future of the galaxy itself. The return of humanity. The ship trembled as ancient mechanisms whirred to life, echoing through the vast chambers like the awakening of a giant from slumber. The crystalline core blazed with energy, sending rippling waves of light through the walls. Patterns that had been dormant for millennia began to shift and pulse, creating a mesmerizing symphony of colors and sound. Commander Trellick felt the weight of the ship's expectations pressing down on him. The voice of the ship had declared him the chosen one, the leader of Terra's legacy. But he was no human, just a hybrid of unknown lineage. How could he possibly measure up to the expectations of a civilization that had burned brighter than any other? "Commander," Vera said, her voice breaking the heavy silence, "the ship is responding to you. The energy levels, they're surging across the entire vessel." Trellick stared at the glowing core, his hand instinctively reaching toward it. The light intensified as his fingers brushed its surface, and a torrent of images flooded his mind. He saw humanity's golden age, their towering cities glistening beneath twin suns. He felt the hope and ambition that had driven them to conquer the stars. But then came the darkness, the invasion, the desperate wars, and finally, the moment of sacrifice. Humanity had poured its heart and soul into this ship, into this legacy, in a last-ditch effort to ensure their story wasn't forgotten. The images faded, leaving Trellick breathless. He looked back at his crew, their faces a mixture of awe and concern. "They didn't build this just for themselves," he said, his voice firm despite the turmoil in his heart. "They built it for all of us, to protect the galaxy from what's coming." As if in response to his words, the ship's walls began to shift, revealing hidden compartments. Out of the shadows stepped humanoid constructs, sleek, metallic beings with glowing blue cores embedded in their chests. Unlike the Guardians they had encountered earlier, these constructs exuded a sense of calm and purpose. "The Guardians of Terra have awakened," the voice declared. "They will serve the leader of the legacy. They await your command." Trellick approached the nearest construct, its glowing eyes meeting his. He could feel the connection between them, as though the ship itself had extended its will through these beings. "What are their capabilities?" he asked, his tone steady. "They are protectors, builders, and warriors," the voice replied. "Each is equipped with the knowledge and technology of Terra, designed to adapt to any threat. Together, they can restore what was lost, or defend against what may come." Chief Engineer Zark whistled low. "That's a fancy way of saying they could wipe out half the galaxy if they wanted to." "They don't exist to destroy," Vera countered, her voice sharp. "They exist to protect. That's what the humans stood for, isn't it? Standing against the darkness, no matter the cost." The voice spoke again, its tone grave. "Darkness stirs once more. The enemy that ended Terra has grown in the shadows, spreading its influence across forgotten worlds. The galaxy will face a reckoning, and the legacy was built to ensure it survives." The chamber shuddered as a massive display activated, projecting a star map that spanned the walls. Dotted across it were pulsating red marks, each one indicating a system where the enemy had taken hold. "This is what humanity faced," the voice continued. "A force that consumes everything it touches. Terra fell delaying it, but they did not destroy it. Now, you must decide. Will you take up their mantle, or will the galaxy be left defenseless?" Trellick clenched his fists. The responsibility was staggering, but he couldn't ignore the evidence before him. Humanity hadn't just created a legacy, they had entrusted it to whoever could rise to the challenge. "I'll do it," he said finally, his voice resolute. "But I won't do it alone. My crew, my people, they're part of this now. We'll stand together." The light of the crystalline core dimmed momentarily, as though acknowledging his words. Then new corridors opened, revealing rows of dormant starships, sleek, angular vessels humming faintly with latent energy. Each one was outfitted with technology far beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. "These are the vessels of Terra's fleet," the voice said, "designed for war, exploration, and restoration. They await your command." Vera gasped, her scanner going wild. "Commander, these ships, they're operational. The systems are running at peak efficiency, even after all this time." "And their weapons?" Zark asked, unable to hide the glint of curiosity in his eyes. "Unparalleled," the voice replied. "But they are tools, not solutions. The true strength of Terra's legacy lies not in its power, but in the will of those who wield it." Trellick took a deep breath, the enormity of the moment sinking in. The fleet was his to command, the Guardians his to guide. But more than that, he carried the weight of humanity's hopes and sacrifices. "This isn't just about us," he said, turning to his crew. "This is about every species, every world that could face the same fate as Terra. If we're going to carry this legacy, we'll do it the right way, with purpose, with unity." As the crystalline core flared with light, a single message appeared, etched in glowing letters across the chamber walls. "Terra's legacy lives again." The ship rumbled once more, its systems fully awakened. The Guardians moved with renewed purpose, and the dormant fleet began to hum with life. For the first time in 500,000 years, Terra was ready to return. Terra's legacy unleashed. The Vorlax explorer was dwarfed by the newly awakened Terra fleet, its crew standing on the bridge, overwhelmed by the scale of what they were witnessing. Row after row of sleek starships, each one brimming with energy and potential, came alive in unison. Their engines pulsed with a steady rhythm, as if synced to the beating heart of the colossal ark. The Guardians, humanoid constructs with glowing blue cores, moved methodically, preparing the fleet. Some disappeared into the starships, integrating themselves with their systems, while others stood sentinel, their silent presence exuding power and purpose. Commander Trellick stepped onto a newly revealed command platform within the ark. The crystalline core pulsed brightly as it projected a three-dimensional map of the galaxy before him. Red markers spread across it like a malignant infection, each one representing the presence of the ancient enemy that had once annihilated humanity. "The enemy's reach has grown," the ship's voice intoned. "They consume systems, leaving nothing but ash and silence in their wake. Their power grows unchecked, their shadows spreading to the very heart of the galaxy." Trellick's fists clenched. "How long do we have before they reach us?" "Time is no ally," the voice replied. "They are already aware of the legacy's awakening. They will come for us." As if on cue, the map shifted, highlighting a nearby star system. An ominous red symbol flared, and the readings indicated massive energy signatures. "Enemy ships en route to the Forbidden Zone." "They're coming here?" Vara asked, her voice trembling. "They cannot allow Terra's legacy to rise again," the voice explained. "If they succeed, the galaxy will be lost." Chief Engineer Zark's jaw tightened. "Then we need to hit them before they hit us. We've got the firepower. Let's show them what this fleet can do." Trellick's gaze hardened. This isn't just about destroying them. Humanity didn't build this legacy to conquer. They built it to protect. We fight only to ensure the galaxy has a future. The crystalline core pulsed in acknowledgement, and the voice spoke once more. "The fleet awaits your command, Commander Trellick. Will you lead Terra's legacy into battle?" Taking a deep breath, Trellick nodded. "Prepare the fleet. It's time to show the galaxy what Terra stood for." The battle begins. The Vorlax explorer docked within the ark, its crew watching from their observation deck as the Terra fleet surged into formation. Each ship moved with precision, their sleek forms gliding effortlessly into battle positions. At the center of the fleet, the ark itself loomed like a silent guardian, its glowing patterns intensifying as it prepared for war. The enemy ships arrived moments later, tearing through space with their grotesque, biomechanical designs. Their forms were nightmarish, each one pulsing with an unnatural crimson energy. The fleet was vast, a swarm of death and destruction that blotted out the stars. As the two forces faced off, the ship's voice spoke, its tone calm and resolute. The enemy believes this is a war of annihilation, but it is not. It is a war of survival. Show them the strength of unity. Show them why Terra's legacy endures. Trellick stood on the command platform, his hands gripping the controls. The crystalline core connected directly to his mind, allowing him to see the battlefield through the eyes of the fleet. Every ship, every guardian, every weapon was an extension of his will. "Target the lead ships," he ordered, his voice steady. "We cut off their command structure and disrupt their swarm." The Terra fleet responded instantly. Waves of brilliant blue energy erupted from the ships, lancing through the void. The beams struck the enemy vessels with devastating precision, tearing them apart in explosions of crimson light. But the enemy was relentless. For every ship destroyed, two more seemed to take its place. The swarm pushed forward, their weapons striking against Terra's shields in a cacophony of energy and metal. "We're outnumbered," Zark shouted, his voice tinged with frustration. "But not outmatched," Vera countered, her eyes scanning the battle. "Their strength is in numbers, but ours is in strategy. Commander, if we can lure them into the debris field." Trellick understood instantly. "They'll lose formation, and that's when we strike." He relayed the orders, and the Terra fleet began a calculated retreat, drawing the enemy ships into the dense field of ancient wreckage surrounding the Forbidden Zone. The enemy pursued, their formations growing chaotic as they navigated the treacherous terrain. "Now," Trellick commanded. The fleet unleashed a coordinated assault, their weapons carving through the disorganized swarm. Explosions lit up the debris field, sending shockwaves rippling through space. The enemy ships faltered, their relentless advance brought to a halt. The turning point. As the enemy retreated, a massive biomechanical flagship emerged from hyperspace, its size dwarfing even the Ark. Its surface writhed with pulsating energy, and its weapons glowed with an ominous crimson light. "This is their leader," the ship's voice warned. "Destroy it, and the swarm will crumble. But be warned, its power surpasses anything you have faced." Trellick focused, his mind linking fully with the fleet. The Guardians surged forward, their weapons targeting the flagship's defenses. The battle was fierce, the enemy ship unleashing waves of destructive energy that tore through the debris field. "Focus fire on its core," Trellick shouted, directing the fleet's combined strength at the flagship's central structure. The Ark itself joined the fray, its glowing patterns intensifying as it fired a massive beam of pure energy. The beam struck the flagship's core, causing a cascade of explosions to ripple across its surface. With one final deafening blast, the flagship imploded, taking the remnants of the swarm with it. The aftermath. As silence fell over the battlefield, the Terra fleet regrouped, their formation as flawless as when the battle began. The crystalline core dimmed slightly, its energy stabilizing after the intense confrontation. "You have proven the strength of Terra's legacy," the voice said. "But this is only the beginning. The enemy will return, stronger and more determined. You must be ready." Trellick nodded, his resolve unwavering. "We will be. Terra's legacy is no longer a memory, it's a promise that will protect this galaxy, no matter the cost." As the Terra fleet prepared for its next journey, the stars seemed to shine brighter, as if the galaxy itself recognized the return of its long-lost guardians. A new dawn. The battle was over, but the galaxy's story had only just begun. The Terra fleet stood triumphant in the silent void, their forms gleaming against the backdrop of the Forbidden Zone. Wreckage from the enemy's shattered forces drifted in the stillness of space, a haunting reminder of the battle's ferocity. Yet amidst the destruction, hope glimmered like a rising star. Commander Trellick stood on the command platform within the Ark, the crystalline core glowing softly before him. Its patterns pulsed steadily, no longer frantic, as though the ship itself had calmed after the storm. The bridge of the Vorlax explorer was silent, its crew watching their commander with a mixture of awe and respect. "You've done it, Commander," Lieutenant Vera said, breaking the silence. "The legacy lives again." Trellick turned to face his crew, his expression firm but reflective. "This wasn't just my victory," he said. "It was ours. Humanity built this legacy to protect the galaxy, not to dominate it. We've taken the first step in fulfilling that promise. But the road ahead is long. Rebuilding the galaxy." The Terra fleet, now fully operational, began its mission to restore balance to the galaxy. The Ark's vast databanks, filled with human knowledge and technology, provided the tools needed to rebuild what the enemy had destroyed. Star systems that had been ravaged were offered aid, their worlds healed by the terraforming capabilities of Terra's ships. The Guardians played a crucial role, their presence both awe-inspiring and reassuring. They worked tirelessly, building defenses, restoring infrastructures, and forging alliances with alien civilizations that had once viewed humans as myths. The legacy was no longer a secret. It was a beacon, a rallying cry for unity against the encroaching darkness. A galaxy united. Word of the Terra fleet's victory spread rapidly, reaching even the most distant corners of the galaxy. Species that had long been at odds set aside their differences, drawn together by the promise of protection and the vision of a united future. Delegates from dozens of worlds arrived at the Ark, their ships dwarfed by its colossal presence, eager to pledge their support. In the Ark's Grand Council chamber, a gathering of galactic leaders convened for the first time in millennia. The chamber, designed by humanity for this very purpose, echoed with the voices of beings from countless worlds. Commander Trellick stood at the center, his presence commanding yet humble. This legacy was left behind by a species that refused to let the galaxy fall into darkness, he began. But it was never meant to belong to humans alone. It belongs to all of us. Together, we can ensure that what happened to Terra never happens again. The chamber erupted in agreement, the leaders united by a shared purpose. The Terra fleet wasn't just a military force. It was a symbol of hope and resilience, a testament to what could be achieved when the galaxy stood together. The return of the enemy. But even as alliances formed and worlds healed, the shadow of the ancient enemy lingered. In the far reaches of the galaxy, where light struggled to reach, the remnants of the enemy forces regrouped. Their leaders, monstrous and calculating, watched with growing unease as Terra's legacy spread like wildfire. "They rise again," one hissed, its voice echoing in the dark. "But this time, we will not underestimate them." The enemy began crafting new weapons, adapting to the tactics of the Terra fleet. They were determined to crush this renewed resistance before it could gain full strength. The galaxy had won a battle, but the war was far from over. A personal reckoning. Within the Ark, Trellick found himself drawn to a private chamber newly revealed by the crystalline core. Inside, holograms of humans flickered to life, their faces familiar despite the vast span of time separating them. They were scientists, soldiers, and leaders, those who had built the Ark and entrusted it with their dreams. "You carry more than our legacy," a voice said, softer and more personal than before. It was the AI, but now it spoke with a tone that felt almost human. "You carry our hopes, our fears, and our mistakes. The choices you make will shape not just the galaxy's future, but how we are remembered." Trellick stood in silence, absorbing the weight of those words. He wasn't just leading a fleet. He was carrying the burden of an entire species' dreams. It was both humbling and terrifying. "I won't fail you," he said quietly. "Not them, not the galaxy." A new mission. As the Terra fleet prepared to leave the Forbidden Zone, the Ark's voice echoed across the command bridge. "The enemy will return. Their darkness will spread again. But now, the galaxy has a chance to fight back." Trellick issued his first formal command as leader of the Terra legacy. "Our mission is clear. We will defend, rebuild, and unite. But we will also search. Somewhere in this galaxy lies the heart of the enemy, the source of their power. We will find it, and we will end this once and for all. The fleet began its journey, its sleek ships cutting through the void like blades of light. The Ark led the way, its glowing patterns a beacon for all who sought hope in a galaxy long shrouded in fear. The legacy lives on. As the fleet disappeared into the stars, the forbidden zone fell silent once more. But it was no longer a place of death and despair. It was a place of rebirth, where Terra's light had been rekindled. And though 500,000 years had passed since humanity's fall, their legacy burned brighter than ever, carried forward by those who refused to let the galaxy fade into darkness.